So now I'd like to move on to another passage related to gender roles. It reads, "To begin with, we must mention the kind of labor which preserves the union of the father. To the husband are usually assigned rural, forensic, and political activities, while to the mother belongs spinning of wool, making of bread, cooking, and in short, everything of a domestic nature. Nevertheless, neither should be entirely exempt from the labors of the other. For sometimes it will be proper, when the wife is in the country, that she should superintend the laborers and act as master of the household, and that the husband should sometimes attend to domestic affairs, inquiring about and inspecting what is doing in the house. This joint participation of necessary cares will more firmly unite their mutual association." So here we see that although some things are considered men's work and other things are considered women's work, this doesn't mean that a wife can't help her husband in the garage, or that a husband can't help his wife with the dishes. I think the objective here is to have a fair division of labor, where work is basically shared equally between them. And of course, modern technology has made both men's work and women's work much less strenuous. We have power tools, riding lawnmowers, dishwashers, and washing machines. But let's read some more. "But it would be well if the legitimate work of a woman be enlarged in other directions, so that she may not only engage with her maidservants in the spinning of wool, but may also apply herself to other more virile occupations. It seems to me that bread-making, drawing water from a well, the lighting of fires, the making of beds and such are labors suited to a free-born woman. But to her husband a wife will seem much more beautiful, especially if she is young, and not yet worn out by the bearing of children, if she becomes his associate in the gathering of grapes and collecting the olives. And if he is verging toward old age, she will render herself more pleasing to him by sharing with him the labor of sowing and plowing, and while he is digging or planting, extending to him the instruments he needs for his work. For when by the husband and wife a family is governed thus in respect to necessary labors, it seems to me that it will be conducted in the best possible manner." So keep in mind that this is an old text. Most of us don't really spin wool, bake our own bread, or pick grapes and things like that. To interpret this in a more modern context, I think it's basically saying that there's nothing wrong with women working outside the home and contributing to the family's income, but her primary occupation should be that of a wife and mother. Her primary job is still to bear and raise children, and basically to be a housekeeper. Nagging is definitely not a part of her job description. Another passage says, "He also advised the women that their conversation should always be cheerful, and to endeavor that others may speak good things of them." So a wife should not be bitchy and argumentative. And I think along with this, it goes without saying that a man should not be mean or verbally abusive to his wife. But look at most feminists. Are their conversations cheerful? Feminism teaches women to see themselves as an oppressed class, and to view men as their oppressors. It's no wonder that women who are indoctrinated with feminism and cultural Marxism are so angry. Feminists do not endeavor that others may speak good things of them, but instead they seek to censor those who criticize them or say things that they deem to be offensive. Again, Pythagoreanism is definitely not feminist. Another passage related to female attire says, "None but courtesans should wear gold, and not the free women." In other words, fancy jewelry is for whores. Women who marry for money love to show off the expensive jewelry that their sugar daddy bought for them. This is one of the ways women compete with one another. If one woman has a more expensive diamond necklace than another woman, this essentially means that she is worth more, in the sense that her husband was willing to pay more for her than the other woman's husband was willing to pay for her. Women also love to show off their engagement rings, and we all know that how big and expensive the diamond is tends to be the focus. This is essentially a reflection of how wealthy her fiancé is. It's a custom for the man to spend a certain percentage of his income on an engagement ring. So a woman's engagement ring is essentially a way of measuring her fiancé's net worth. So when a woman shows her ring to her friends or to other women, and their eyes get big at the size of the diamond and they start jumping up and down and congratulating her, they're expressing excitement and envy over the fact that the woman is marrying up. And if another woman has a bigger, more expensive diamond, the woman with the smaller, less expensive diamond will generally become unhappy and jealous, essentially because the other woman got a wealthier man than she did. Of course, this is only a general rule, but it's definitely the rule and not the exception. Marriage has to a large degree become little more than a form of prostitution. By showing off her expensive jewelry, she's essentially bragging about how much her husband was willing to pay for her. A woman who wears expensive jewelry is basically like a prostitute, bragging to other prostitutes about what an expensive prostitute she is. And they judge each other based on who is the most expensive prostitute. Pythagoras says that golden ornaments and expensive jewelry is for courtesans, for escorts, prostitutes, not free women. Free women are not for sale. They don't sell themselves. Let's continue reading. As to body ornaments, a woman's garments should be white and simple, and not superfluous. They will be so if they are neither transparent nor variegated, nor woven from silk, inexpensive and white. This will prevent excess ornamentation, luxury, and superfluity of clothes, and will avoid the imitation of depravity by others. So apparently, none of the great teachers Pythagoras studied under ever told him that you don't wear white after Labor Day. Of course, it's well known that the Pythagoreans wore white robes, but I think it's fine to wear other colors, obviously. I think the point is to dress modestly. Whether you're a man or a woman, why incite envy in others by flaunting your wealth? Don't be so superficial and materialistic. And if you're not superficial and materialistic, then why do you want to wear expensive clothes and jewelry? Women, if you're not trying to excite sexual lust in men, then why do you need to wear revealing, form-fitting clothing? Why do you need to paint your faces like prostitutes? Pythagoreans didn't go as far as Muslims do. Pythagorean women didn't wear burqas, and as far as I know, the Pythagoreans weren't interested in telling people what to wear, and I'm not either. They weren't trying to pass laws making short skirts or low-cut blouses illegal. They weren't trying to criminalize gold earrings. They were trying to influence culture. They were slut-shaming, you might say. A young woman who paints her face and dresses like a slut should be shamed. She should feel embarrassed to go out in public like that. She should feel as if everyone is judging her, and everyone should be judging her. A healthy and virtuous society should value modesty. Dressing like a whore should be a social taboo. Not a crime, but a social taboo. Parents should teach their daughters to dress modestly, to respect themselves, and to not objectify and sexualize themselves. Men should respect women. But how can you say that men should respect women unless women respect themselves? How can you say that men shouldn't objectify women or treat them like sex objects when women objectify themselves and present themselves as sex objects? I think that the Muslim world has gone too far to one extreme, but the Western world may have gone even further toward the opposite extreme. In my opinion, the Pythagorean philosophy offers a healthy, moderate position. Reading on, a woman should besides illuminate her face not by powder or rouge, but by the natural glow from the towel, adorning herself with modesty rather than by art. Thus she will reflect honor, both on herself and her husband. Neither should a woman go out from her house at dawn or dusk, but openly when the forum is full of people, accompanied by one or at the most 2 servants, to see something or to shop. Now, in my view, I don't see anything wrong with wearing light makeup or perfume and things like that. But I agree with the Pythagorean view that both men and women should dress modestly. I think that's been covered enough already. But I wanted to comment on the last line of that passage that says that a woman shouldn't go out of the house alone during the early hours of the morning or the late hours of the evening. This sounds like something we might expect to read in the Quran. But of course, this is from the early Pythagorean text. But again, I want to emphasize that the Pythagoreans are not talking about passing a law or enforcing a mandatory curfew for women. Having pretty much read all of the early Pythagorean text, my view is that the Pythagoreans were fairly libertarian. They were against tyrannical government. They believed in personal freedom. They were giving advice here, not making rules that they were forcing other people to follow. And I do think this is good advice. I think it's a good idea for women not to go out alone late at night or in the early morning hours. I don't think I need to explain this. But there's something I want to make very clear, because there's an objection that I know I'm going to see in the comments. I don't believe in blaming the victim. I don't think women should go out by themselves late at night. I don't think they should dress provocatively. But if a woman does, and she gets raped or something horrible like that, I'm not going to say that it was her fault, or that she deserved it, or that she was asking for it. And I think rapists should be put to death. But of course, as much as I want to see justice for rape victims, even more than that, I'd like for them not to be rape victims. And so I think it's good advice to avoid putting yourself at risk, or putting yourself in dangerous situations and drawing attention to yourself. Of course, I'd like to live in a society where women can go out alone at night and be perfectly safe. Here's the question, though. Is America more safe or less safe than it was before the 1960s? What's changed? I could spend several hours on that question, but I just want to encourage you to think about it for a while. And also think about what it would take to move back in the right direction. Would it mean returning to traditional values and rejecting liberalism? And would it also mean reversing the demographic shift that resulted from radical changes in our immigration policy that allowed waves of foreigners from countries that have very different cultures than we do, and different attitudes toward things like rape? And if we look at the countries or areas that are the most safe and that have the lowest crime, do they have anything in common? Are they mostly in the Middle East, Africa, and South America? Again, this is a whole other topic, but I'd like to wrap up this discussion by saying that this is essentially a culture war. Over the last few decades, liberals have been winning the culture war, and the poison of cultural Marxism has spread and soaked deep into the fabric of our society. It's time to get serious about removing this cancer. And I repeat, feminism is cancer. But it's part of a larger cancerous ideology, which is antithetical to Pythagorean philosophy. But I wanted to focus on feminism in this discussion because, like I said, I've heard a number of people try to claim that Pythagoras was a feminist because he allowed women into his school. I think it should be absolutely clear at this point that Pythagoras was not a feminist. He believed in the patriarchy, and so did Pythagorean women, as we can see from their own writings. So if you ever hear anyone spreading that liberal nonsense, please send them a link to this video. If you enjoyed this discussion, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this in the future. Also keep in mind that making videos like this is a lot of work, more than a full day's work, and I don't get paid to do this. So if you'd like to support me so that I can continue doing this, and possibly even be able to do it full time, you can make a donation through PayPal, or become a regular patron through Patreon. Also be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and check out my music. All of my links are in the description box below. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace.